Good evening, friends. I think market is in a very good mood in that sense. Of course, today has been a little exception, but otherwise, market did a very smart recovery in the month of November and got extended further in the month of December. So I'm going to discuss some of the macros with you people. Should we expect Santa rally this year or not? What are the challenges that we need to be aware about as we are in the last month of 2023? So I'm going to discuss this, and then of course we'll open the floor for question and answer. But before that, just a disclaimer that this webinar is only for an education purpose. Please consult your financial advisor before buying or selling any stock. Whenever you invest in the equity market, it's subject to market risk, and past performance is no indicator of future returns. So with this, let's try to understand one critical aspect and inflation. And in fact, when I had put it this slide, that time CPI inflation has not come out. And just as I come in, I saw that inflation, today's India's inflation came at 5.5%, which moved up from 4.87% of October. It's moved to 5.5. Having said that, even for the month of December, the inflation is going to remain little sticky. And one of the reasons why inflation is going to remain little sticky, for the very simple reason, because food inflation is likely to remain at the elevated level. And I think that could be one area that we need to be aware about. And if you look at the Rabi crop sowing which has happened till now, until 1st December, it is less by 5.3% as compared to last year. 434.7 lakh hectare sowing has happened as compared to 640. It does not mean that food grade production would be less or high, because it's also a function of what happens with the climate. And my worry is that if you look at this IMD prediction, they predicted that this time winter is likely to be little warm. Now that could impact the output. So on one hand, you have a less number of what we call harvesting happen in terms of area. And number two, if the yield comes down, I think it will be a challenge, and that could spike the inflation in the economy. While we do, like, assembly elections are out of our way, but the general elections are going to be, and every political party will gear up in next couple of months. We do expect the price of crude has come down, but we did not see that price change happening at the petrol pump level. This can happen before general election, and price of diesel and petrol can come down, which can give some comfort level on the inflation. Because why? Because diesel prices and petrol prices are very critical component. Why? Because people move from one place, goods has to move from one place to another place. That could basically make life little, it push up the inflation little higher. Having said that, history suggests very clearly, वो जो लास्ट का जो रहता है ना दिस इन्फ्लेशन, इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू मैनेज. यानी बोलते ना कि जस्ट टू गिव एन एग्जांपल ऑफ एन एग्जाम, it may be very easy to score 90%. Then it becomes a little difficult to score 91%. Then it becomes a little difficult to have that incremental 1% change. Then 93 becomes more difficult. And something similar happened with the disinflation. Inflation ko niche. So while we have seen that inflation coming down substantially in the last 1 year or so, not 1 year but last 8 to 9 months, the last leg of inflation will be little difficult to manage. वो linear कम नहीं होने वाला है कि वो नीचे गिर जाए तो नीचे नीचे गिरते गिरते ऐसा हो जाएगा. I think it was going to make life little tough for the central banks across the world, not only for India, across the world. And unfortunately, we are having uncertainty at a very frequent interval, whether we like it or not. And I think that's going to make life little difficult for the central banks and also for this one. One general consensus view seems to be that the world economy did extremely well in 2023. 2024 may not be as exciting as 2023. In fact, if you look at last couple of years, it has been really challenging. Why it has been challenging? We had seen COVID crisis not once but twice. We saw inflation shooting up, and due to that, across the world, central banks hiking the rate of interest an unprecedented level. The pace at which it has been risen. We had seen Russia-Ukraine crisis. We had seen supply side issues impacting it. We have seen Israel-Hamas. In between, we saw China slowing down an Evergrande issue and so on and so forth. It has been a very, very challenging last 3-4 years. And that challenge is going to continue going forward. So I think while we are going to close 2023 on a positive note, I think 2024 does come with a lot of uncertainty that we need to all be mindful of. And I'm not going to say what index would be, that I'll cover in my Equity Outlook 2024, but I think the market has to face some challenge. Don't expect inflation to have a linear fashion. So it's not going to keep coming down. Remember that fact. And today the data that has come out of CPI is just one proof. And do expect December to be elevated level only as and when next month the data comes out. If you look at RBI has not revised their inflation for the third and fourth quarter. They believe that inflation will remain for the full year, that is this current financial year, 5.4%. If you look at the second quarter of FY 2025, that is July to September 2024, they expect inflation to go down to 4%. And that's what the comfort level RBI has. So in other words, looking at the data point and looking at the commentary given by the RBI in its last monetary policy, that is on 8 December, I think we should not expect rate of interest to come down in a hurry. But it could happen just before the election. That's what my sense is. So as I said, inflation can come down because of petrol and diesel prices coming down. That could help inflation to little cool off. And there could be just before election, that is general election, there could be a rate cut that's possible. But right now, RBI do believe that inflation, that 4%, that's what the target plus and minus 2, looks like happening only in the July to September 2024 quarter. In terms of GDP, we are expected to grow at 4%. And if you look at every MPC meeting, 8th June, 10th June, 6th June, I think now this has been revised upward. It was 6%. Now on 8 December, the Monetary Policy Committee believed that it will be 6.5% for the third quarter, and 5.7 has been revised upward to 6%. And for Q1 and Q2 is again in excess of 6.5%. So I think that's a very good data right now that we have. Of course, these numbers will keep revising. One good thing which has happened, and I think that's a lot of credit should given to the RBI and the Indian government, that despite such a challenging environment globally, Indian economy did well. If you look at historically, the global crisis used to impact India very badly, very severely. That has not happened this time. So that's what the numbers are. What do we have action-packed week ahead? This week, today, I just checked before I went live with this inflation data is going to come. It's not come yet for US. If it's come now, then I'm not aware because I'm in front of you. CPI for November is expected from the US. Fed meeting is there on Wednesday, that is tomorrow. Retail sales in the US will get announced on Thursday. And ECB and Bank of England will issue the decision on Thursday. So I think we will have one event or another event happening and that will keep market little this one. Now सबके दिमाग में ये है, will there be a center rally or not? Am I right? Market has done extremely well in the month of November and first 10 days of December. Our sense is that market has moved up very significantly in the recent past. So I think वो center rally पहले आ गई instead of coming during the Christmas time. While the rally has come, there is no change in the fundamental story. You know what it was, it is there actually. And that makes us believe that probability of center rally is very, very low. We don't expect any rally to happen. On the contrary, there could be some amount of a correction that can happen. That's what we saw today, which may get extended in next couple of weeks also till we come to an end of 2023. We do believe that the volume will come down in the month of December, and that has happened historically, so this time also will happen. And hence, you need to be very, very careful in the company that you need to invest in. Don't go overboard because कोई company चला है and hence let me buy that in anticipation कि आगे जाके भी चलेगा. That's not the right way to do that. Am I right? So with this, let me open the floor for question answer. Let's over to you. Nilesh is asking, what are the best options to invest in gold? I can see our logo looks a little odd actually. I mean, can you see that? Can you correct that? Yeah, thanks. What are the best options to invest in gold? How much return expected? What is the ideal percent of total having to be invested in it? So Nilesh ji, we have said time and again in our webinar, 10 to 15% should be in gold. It's more of an assets allocation strategy than taking a view on this because it will give a lot of stability to the portfolio. How much return expected? I would not be able to comment. But my sense is that in next 5 years, the CI could be in double digit from the gold. And that's what our sense is. So what are the best options to invest in gold? I think one of the best option is that you can go to sovereign gold bond or ETF. I think that's the best way. Don't buy jewelry. My request to all of you, if you really want to take a view on gold, don't buy jewelry because jewelry does come with a lot of making charges. Then when you want to sell, there will be some kind of a what we call, they call it impurity charges because they will cut something because they need to melt the gold and so on and so forth, which will not work out well. The best way is SGB or ETF. That's the best way you can invest in gold. Sandeep, am I saying, Sunil ji, what is institutional account and who can open it? Do they have any priority while buying and selling? Who provide institutional accounts? I don't know, sir. What is your question, sir? What is institutional account? Institutional account is those who are basically institution like mutual fund or FII. So individual like you and me cannot open institutional account. There has to be opened by institution. It has to be a body, corporate body that can do that. Do they have any priority while buying and selling? No, there is no priority. Who provide institutional accounts? You need to be institution, sir, to be provide you then your broker can help you with that. But either you need to be FII, you need to be a mutual fund or PMS house or AIF. Those are institutional investors. You and me cannot be institutional investors because we are individual. There could be HNI investors. That's a different story. But it cannot be institutional. Yeah. Shyam Sundar is saying, what should an investor generally do when the stock falls or rises sharply plus or 10% in a day? So it's all depending upon, there is no standard answer to that. It's all depending on which company you are referring to. I'll give a very classical example. There is one company which is into ethanol making machinery. Because of news came out negative, this company went down. Now, in that case, first you need to understand what is it. Is it an impact short term? Is it an impact long term? If the impact is short term, it can bounce back very significantly. If the impact is long term, it will take years to bounce back. I think you need to first figure it out why this company is down by 10% up or 10% down. Then you should ask, like one other classical example, yesterday some of the jute manufacturing company went up substantially high because the government of India came out with the new regulations and that they moved up. We need to understand, is this really over in that because all good things are priced in now in one day only, or they could be extended. So it's all depending upon what news, and then try to understand it's a short-term impact, long-term impact, how much company can benefit of that, or is it a good opportunity to move out of that company since the script is giving an exit option. So you need to understand why it has moved up or moved down and what could be reason. And sometimes in case if this company goes down, it also can give you a good opportunity to buy up more of that company. Why? Because you are getting that same company at a 10% discount. So that's the way. So you should look at it, why it has moved up or moved down, and then analyze how sustainable that move, what kind of impact it can have on the company's fortune. Tejas is asking, I'm opting for 50% soul and also power. 30% of my equity net worth will be in the PMS. Insurance and other fund part is taken care of if I don't need the money for at least 5 to 7 years. Will power and soul be rebalanced whenever one part of strategy outperforms? Sir, answer is no. Both will run independent of each other. So it will not look at what soul is performed, what power is performed. So that will not. Are there any chances that power and soul stocks have total less than 20 stocks? Yes. What probability is yes, that's possibility. I believe concept portfolio is the best. Yes, we do have some of the portfolio with 6, 7 stocks only. So if you both combine power and soul, it would be 14. And if some of the stocks are common, then it's more concentrated in that sense. I just don't know guide on how to distribute between power and soul, what percentage. So Tejas sir, I think 30% of total equity net worth will be in the PMS. That's a very, it's not too high. And if that's not too high, and you don't need money for next 5 to 7 years, my suggestion would be you can go for maybe 70-30 kind of a ratio. Soul could be 70, 30% could be power. Having said that, 50% is not a bad also. But my first preference would be 70-30 or maybe 60-40 if you wish to play a little safe. But the last option would be 50-50. That's the way you can look at it. That's what my advice would be, Tejas ji. Pawan is saying, when the markets are at all time, is it right time to invest in PSU, which is more of a bulk investment? Do you see any downside risk with this? So Pawan sir, I was talking to someone today and said, the market is always rewarded optimistic person in the world. Market, always, ab dunya mein dekh lo. Market is never rewarded pessimistic guy. Why? Because market eventually is to go up. So, even in the bad market, there is a risk to the equity investment, am I right? So, वो कोई guarantee कोई भी नहीं होता है. But I think, is it a right time to invest? And I said, right time to invest is when you have the money in your pocket. जब market नीचे, suppose, assume what you are saying is right, 100% के market नीचे गया. Will you have a guts to put money at that point of time? At that point of time, there will be more stories coming out, then that market will further go down. आप पैसा डालोगे तभी, नहीं डालोगे, and market will take a U-turn and you'll still be out on the market. And I will a classical example which Ramdev Agarwal, during COVID time, we hosted Ramdev Agarwal in one of our webinars. And he gave a very nice example. A friend of his basically told him that Ramdev, मैं तो निकल रहा हूँ market से. And he got out somewhere in Jan 2020, if my memory serves me right. And market did crash in March 2022. And he was very, very happy. कि क्या call है मेरा, सही गया. And Ramdev also felt यार क्या गलती कर दिया है. You know, his call was really right. And the market bounced back very substantially. And at that point of time, we hosted him in 2021. And the same, his friend was still out of the market because he was still waiting for market to come down. He could not invest. So when market moved down, he did not have a guts to invest that money which he moved out of the market at the right time. So I always say it's very easy to say, you know the top of the market. It's extremely difficult to understand the bottom of the market. तब आप पैसा नहीं लगा पाओगे सर. So my advice, if your view is only 3 months and 6 months, then please stay away from the market. But if your view is that I want to invest for, like other gentlemen are saying, is you have 5 to 7 years. If you want to invest for 3 to 5 years, my suggestion would be please go ahead and invest in PMS. Don't wait for to time market. We are not taking any cash calls on the market. I must tell you one more thing. If you remember, I was in front of you in somewhere in the month of October. And at that point of time, many fund managers took a cash calls on the market, thinking the market will come down. The cash calls are completely boomerang. Why? Because the market went up substantially high. So there is no certainty in this market that market will go down only. Someone made a prediction to us, one of our PMS customer. भाई मार्केट तो चलने नहीं वाला इलेक्शन तक, कोई फायदा नहीं है. That he made a statement in the month of October, and it was proved completely wrong. So my advice, if you have the money, you don't need this money for minimum 3 to 5 years. Please go ahead and invest. That's what my advice. If you are still want to be a little wary of the market, you can keep waiting. Market will bounce back at some point of time, and you'll keep waiting. You'll wait for the. And what will happen? The frustration will come. You will end up investing in the equity market at the top of the cycle. I'll give you a classical example. This example is very, very relevant for all of you. So, a friend of mine, and he's into hardware business. He said, Sunil bhai, I have lost very heavily in Harsad Mehta crisis. I lost very heavily in Y2K boom and bust. तो मैंने तो कसम खा ली है कि मैं स्टॉक मार्केट पैसा नहीं डालूंगा. And he stick to that temptation of not investing in the market very quite some time. 2003 से 2037 तक की रैली तक. He said नहीं मैं नहीं डालूंगा. And somewhere he gave up. That grit came into his mind. And he invested in January 2008. And then he saw market crack. And that's why I'm saying, he tried to time the market. So you will put money not when the market is down, you will put money when the market is at top, because that time you will have there is something called FOMO, fear of missing out. And that basically make customers or investors lose very badly. So my advice would be please come to PMS without trying to time the market. So Ritvik sir, we do believe that ethanol is a long-term story. There is no change in the ethanol story because of government action. Government need to blend. Ethanol blending program will continue whether we like it or not. Yes, there is a temporary setback, but it's not a damage that will impact the very significant. In fact, government want to reduce the import bill, and ethanol is the nice way to reduce the import bill. They talk about diesel blending and so on and so forth. Because this year sugar production is less, so the government is saying, okay, don't divert sugar juice for ethanol. Please convert that into sugar only. So there is a temporary setback, short-term setback. I think market is matured enough to understand that, and I think it will keep rewarding those who play the story well. So nothing to worry at all on the ethanol front. If you read the government statement very carefully, I think they are not said that they are going to reduce the ethanol blending program. And in fact, all it's going to go up, it's going to increase only, ethanol blending program. It's not going to come down. He's saying, Naveen is saying, I want to know, I have two aggressive model portfolio. One is having 9%, second is having 17% CAGR in 2 years approximately. Is it a good throw in the same period? Many small cap funds deliver more than 25 CAGR. What should I do with? I'm confused about my portfolio. What should I do? Please answer my question, please. Naveen sir, equity market will always give you non-linear returns. And keep saying, if you have to evaluate any fund manager in the world, and this is not I'm saying today, I've been saying this from the day we started our webinar. That's in 2021. Please look at the block of minimum 3 years. And that's how you should look at it. And today only, I got a phone call from one of the leading mutual fund distributor. And my wife had invested in some mutual fund. तो मैंने बोला उसका तू list तो भेज मुझे क्या है क्या नहीं है and that is 2008 or something. Let me just tell you something. And then I was discussing. I'll tell you what is it actually, because 1 second. So this is these are the way basically we get. I got this. So there is one scheme. I don't want to name the scheme, but this investment was done in February 2006. What is it? February 2006. And when I look at the data, okay, because a long period of the return, the CAGR has been 13.53%. There's another scheme that has been invested, is a tax saver scheme, okay, invested in 2008, 31st March 2008. The CAGR has been, 12.79% only. And I was saying, अगर मैं ETF में डालता तो शायद मैं पैसे ज़्यादा बनता, पैसिव फंड में डालता तो मेरा पैसा ज़्यादा बनता. So not necessarily that the mutual fund that making 25% return CAGR will continue making that kind of a return going forward, and not necessarily that 9 and 16, 70% will keep making 9 and 70. It can make higher, so it can let lesser. So evaluate at the period of 3 years. So since just to cut short the answer, to give a very clear cut, please continue following our model portfolio. Probability is very high that over a block of 3 years, you would make more money on this two model portfolio as compared to the mutual fund portfolio. Satish, if petrol and diesel price are to come down, it will be negative for OMC. Is the price of OMC factored in the potential drop in price of fuel? If not, do you think OMC price would come down on fuel price reduction? See, it's all depending upon whether government basically reduce the margin for the OMC or they reduce the tax on the petrol and diesel. We don't know how it's going to happen. And hence it's a function of what government does that actually. So OMC right now, if you ask me my personal opinion, I would prefer to play a little safe, keeping in mind that there is an election, and during election time we have seen the government did not allow increase in the price also, and the government did that. So we need to wait and watch. So right now my sense is that we need to wait and watch what government does in terms of reducing margin for the OMCs and asking them to absorb that losses, or the government reduces the tax itself. We need to wait and watch. It will be very difficult to say right now what government will. It's very difficult to read the government mind. We all know what happened to the election result, and then who are the chief minister. No one could basically predict that Rajasthan chief minister will be so and so, Madhya Pradesh chief minister will be so and so. It's difficult. This government has made life little difficult for the experts. They never will give any hint what is there in their mind, and it's very difficult. Same applies to the diesel and petrol price reduction of petrol. See, remember, I'm not saying this will definitely happen. This is my understanding. It should happen. That's what my understanding is. Government may not do anything also. That's also possibility. तो ये तो मेरा एक assumption है कि गवर्नमेंट पेट्रोल एंड डीजल प्राइस को शायद कम करेगी. वो करेगी कि नहीं करेगी, that's also not very sure. Am I right? My assumption is they will do it. In what way do it, we need to wait and watch. Today, Mojo stock went down 10%. I'm sure you know which stock should we hold on. Please continue to hold. Pramod, which sector are going to be the most beneficial when inflation starts coming down? See, that is again, there are general rules, कि ये होगा तो ये होगा. But I think this market has been behaving a little different manner. So sometimes we think this is the most obvious one, may not happen in that manner. और वो देखा है हम लोग ने बहुत बार देखा है कि sometimes the market has basically worked defy the logic. जो कॉमन सेंस अप्रोच है ना वो शायद कभी नहीं भी चलता है. But if the inflation comes down, I think it will give more money to the people to spend, because then your saving will be higher. And then if that happens, your consumption basket, the stock sector that basically part of a consumption basket, they should do well. That's what the one assumption. Banking can do well because of that. But I think inflation, when it comes down, I think it helps everyone in the system, because it will reduce the pressure on the economy, and that helps everyone. Your rupee will not depreciate as much as, so if that rupee does not depreciate, the economy will get benefit. The economy get benefit, it benefits every other sector in the economy. So I think there are some direct beneficiary and the indirect beneficiary. But overall, it helps market to do extremely well, because lower inflation, that means your future discounted cash flow value goes up. And if that goes up, market is willing to pay higher price. The PE goes up and it helps everyone in the system. So there will be some would be less, some would be more, but overall everyone get the. But I think the consumption basket is one sector that gets a lot of benefit because of the inflation coming down. Oh, what is soul and power? Lata is asking. So, ma'am, nothing else, but as you can see on the screen, it says MarketsMojo Assets Management. Am I right? And what does it mean is that we are started PMS, Portfolio Management Service. And within the Portfolio Management Service, we have two schemes, Power and Soul. Soul is nothing but it's completely agnostic to the market cap. It can be 100% small cap, it could be 100% mid cap, it could be 100% large cap also. While in Power, and of course the allocation of market cap is decided by our IP. But in Power, we'll restrict only up to 20% in a small cap. Even if our IP says that small cap will do extremely well, we will not go more than 20% exposure in a Power. So that's the basic difference between Soul and Power. It's a PMS product that we have launched since July 2023, and Soul and Power are part of that. If you need more information, please feel free to write to us at connect@mojopms.com, and my team will help you to understand more about the same. Should we book the profits at this point of time? Answer is yes and no, depending upon what stocks you are holding in the portfolio, and it's a function of that. See, remember, in market there are no standard. ऐसा नहीं कि ये सभी के लिए लगेगा. There are certain stocks which should further go up purely based on the fundamental story. Okay, let me tell you, in my personal portfolio, am I booking profit? Answer is no, because the stock, it's also a function of what stock you are holding. I may book profit in one company, but not the complete portfolio. Am I right? Where you think the story is over, or where the company is moved ahead of the fundamentals, and you believe now it's a time come for me to lock in profit, yes, the answer is yes. But otherwise, should we exit from the market and remain in cash? The answer is no. Should you book profit at this point? Yes, provided the stock has gone ahead of the fundamentals. Then that, yes, in that case, yes. If the stock has gone up and yet fundamental story continues to remain robust, you should not. See, दूसरा क्या होता है, जब कोई कंपनी हाथ से निकल जाती है ना, फिर you will not be able to rebuy also that company. And hence you should be very, very mindful when you do profit booking. Khudanpur, Khudanpur sir is asking, sir, please suggest debt funds which give me returns than the bank FD. Thank you. Sir, I'm not an expert in the debt mutual fund, but we do have a mutual fund section on our website. Please refer that. Remember, mutual fund do run a risk of a returns on the capital. So be mindful of that, and we have seen that happening in one of the leading mutual fund and debt funds only. But there are many mutual funds that could be giving returns which is higher than the bank FD. In fact, I've seen some of the corporates offering a very good rate of returns on their fixed deposit. Maybe you should explore that also in case if you wish to go to that. But otherwise, our MarketsMojo website will help you because we do run a mutual fund section there on the site, and which can do that. Maybe you should ask this question to Karan, who is an expert on that, and he will be right person to answer your question. So, I am not a big fan of mutual fund. Not at all big fan of mutual fund. And within debt also, वो तो हुआ ही नहीं वहाँ पे तुम्हें. Because why should you put your money into debt mutual fund? Because it's not going to give returns as high. But of course, everyone has a different risk appetite and different risk profile. And hence, if you wish to do that, do that. Please ask my colleague Karan, and I think is the best person to answer your question. Why we should not, Captain Sanjay Gupta is asking, sir, why should we not use today's webinar to time the market? Book partial profit this week, sit on cash, wait and then buy again when my Nifty gets corrected. Sir, if you can do that, see, first thing, this is all probability. Gupta sir, मैं कोई भगवान नहीं हूँ. Am I right? I can go wrong also. I have gone wrong and I will go wrong also. This is my understanding. If the market doesn't correct only, ऊपर चले गया, फिर तो आप मुझे गाली दोगे. नंबर वन, एज्यूम दैट व्हाट ही इज सेइंग इज राइट, के मार्केट में चला गया, मैंने जो बोला शायद हो गया मार्केट में. As I was explaining to the other person also, it's extremely difficult to when markets are down. If you remember, Gupta sir, in Feb and March 2023, I was requesting with folded hands to our customers, please invest in the market. The risk reward has gone in the favor of reward. कितने लोग ने लिया, किसने नहीं लिया? बहुत लोग, कम लोगों ने लिया. Because we all suffer from recency bias, I call it. हमको लगता है जो अभी हो रहा है वो ही आगे जाके भी होने वाला है. The same investor may not have bought in the month of Feb and March, but the same investor would have bought more money, put more money in the month of August and September. Why? Because the market was doing very well. So मेरा वरी है सर कि जब निफ्टी को करेक्ट हो जाएगा, आप में गट्स नहीं होगी इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए. Because at that time, because why the market is down? Because that time negative news must be dominating. And in that dominating news, you will think market will further fall. And the mind will play click with you. कभी आप इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर पाओगे. So my request to you, don't take a blanket call. वो जो मार्केट उसने 100% निकल जाना है और जब मार्केट करेक्ट होगा मैं जब डालूंगा. जैसे आई गिव यू एन एग्जांपल ऑफ फ्रेंड ऑफ रामदेव अग्रवाल जी. हाँ, but where you think the script is moved ahead of the fundamentals, then you should get out. Then you should not look at also कि क्या प्राइस है, मैं निकल गया, अभी क्या प्राइस है, because that's not the right way to look at it. एक बार निकल गए. Redeploy that funds in the company which is going to do well, and that's how you should look at it. So yes, profit booking, answer is yes, but stock specific, should you take a cash call? Answer is no. Akshay is asking, sir, on the Infin financial score in the financial trend section is not shown. It will be difficult to analyze the performance of the company for the previous quarters. Point taken, sir. Akshay, sir, I'm not the right person to right now give a comment on InfinHub, but I'll definitely put down this. I will just send this message to Karan. Karan is the best person. Karan is coming in front of you tomorrow. My request would be, please ask this question. I think he'll be the right person to take it forward from there. Rina is asking, what are the good options for investment in undervalued companies of EV? It is allied companies and power companies for long-term investment for 5 years. Do the market manager can suggest any specific portfolio for this type of investment. So Reena ji, we don't have any thematic portfolio that you mentioned about. Right now we don't have it. Maybe in future we can have the thematic portfolio, but right now we don't have. And I think that's where you need to be. See, remember, EV spaces, and in fact, I would request you to please read that interview of Rajiv Bajaj. I think day before yesterday or yesterday, I'm not able to recollect. And he said very beautiful things about the EV. The space is completely changing very, very fast and very quickly. The complete ecosystem is going to change very fast and very quickly. People are working on battery system. People are working on various things. And I think I must tell you one more thing. The leader of today in EV would be the laggards of tomorrow. This industry is going to do a lot of transformation in terms of technology. The technology development, if it happens at X in some industry, this will happen at 5X in this EV industry. Because some of the best brains in the world want to crack the EV episode. And some of the incumbent players may be successful, but not everyone will be successful. And the EV is going to dominate by the people who don't have any experience in the automobile industry. I'll give you a classical example. In India, who is the largest broker? It's not a traditional any of the broker. The likes of HDFC and ICICI. It's Grow and Zerodha. They had no background at all in the broking industry, and yet they went on to become the largest broker in the country. So if you look at the industry where technology is the paramount importance, there is nothing called first mover advantage there. The first mobile phone was manufactured by not Apple or Samsung. But today they are dominating the market. And I can give you name after name in the industry which is driven by the technology, where because of the change happening in the technology, some of the incumbent players will not be able to as quickly move to the new technology as some of the new players. In fact, some of the new players will start with the new technology only. So उसके लिए कोई unlearning नहीं होता है, but increment के लिए learning होता है. See how Kodak, which was manufacturing a camera, lost out big way to the digital cameras. And again driven by the technology. So my sense is that this EV industry is going to go through a tremendous change, and that's where I think the leaders are not even in listed space. I must tell you that, and hence to construct a portfolio from that is going to be difficult. People are talking about different kind of a battery, different kind of a charging, different kind of a how. So the challenge today is that how do we reduce the size of the battery, but at the same time gives more mileage. And then a lot of technology, that a lot of things are happening there, where people are working on different kind of a. If one is a lithium ion, then there is something sodium battery also that the world is working on, and then someone is working which I am not aware also, which will completely transform the way the EV battery will work. So number one. Number two, some of the features that can basically. So I think EV is more about software than the hardware. And that's what, like for example, if you buy the mobile phone, except Apple, everyone is Android, am I right? There is nothing different. All phones are powered by Android. But you prefer one Android phone as compared to another one. Why? Because there are different features altogether. And I think that's what something similar is going to define by the EV industry, where software is going to make which company is going to be successful. Hardware सब लोग का more or less same ही होने वाला है, उसमें कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला है. But what kind of software, what kind of features you make, that's going to. But remember my word, the leader of today in EV may not be the leader in EV 3 to 4 years down the line. That applies to two-wheeler, that applies to four-wheeler, that applies to three-wheeler, and so on and so forth. Because the industry is going to change, a lot of innovation that's going to happen. Bangladesh sir is asking, policymakers trying to achieve low unemployment and low inflation. When the unemployment growth decreases, natural inflation increases. So disinflation cannot minimum when unemployment growth is low. Your view on this? So sir, that's something called neutral rate, where you basically find balance between the inflation and unemployment. And I think that's a challenge that the world, see, if you remember, post that global financial crisis, the inflation was low. And so is the case with unemployment. And I think that equation remained intact till the global virus crisis hit us. Am I right? So what we are saying is theoretically right, but I think we also seen that we have been able to achieve both good at one point at once only. So yes, we can have low unemployment as well as a low inflation. That's possible, and that we have seen happening. That it's all depending upon how central banks takes policy action and so on and so forth. Ajay is saying, I transfer the sales from my NFD to the PMS account. I am assuming that the P&L computation for tax will be based on the actual buy dates and not the transfer date to PMS. So Ajay sir, the answer is yes, provided you have given your actual transaction price to us. So there is something called one form, I'm forgetting what is it called. You need to give that information to us. Okay, I bought ABC Limited on so and so date, it's so and so price. If you have given that, yes, our computation of that will be based on the buy dates and not the transfer date to the PMS. Satish sir is asking, do you have any plans to launch similar to small caps portfolio which are very popular based on sector rotation or thematic time, even though the model portfolio are there, which is limited to? Satish sir, we don't have, to be honest with you, right now on our agenda. See, we need to understand that thematic schemes are a little higher risk and higher return. And by observation, interact with you people in last 3-4 years has been that most of the investors, they say that yes, we can afford to take high risk. We don't mind there is a drawdown in the portfolio. But when that happens, they start panicking. And thematic funds do come with lot of risk. Because वो strategy चलानी, then you are exposed to that thematic fund, वो बहुत नुकसान करवा के देगा. So I think when you invest in thematic fund, you need lot of maturity. And I've realized that not many investors have that kind of a maturity. I'll give you a classical example. Suppose if you start your portfolio and it goes down by 5-6% in the market, you start panicking. Despite the fact that these investors committed, or because I'm there for 3 years, doesn't matter short term mein kya hota hai, volatility, but that in real life that's not possible. In fact, I'll tell you a very classical example. One of the customers, he came down to us, very HNI investors. He was the big money, and he said when he came, we met us first time, he said, I don't mind taking a higher risk. So even if the drawdown in the portfolio is high, I'm fine with it, because what matters to me is a return, and the very fact that I'm taking higher risk, that means it will generate higher returns for me also, logically. And if that happens over a period of 3 to 5 years, I want to be in the journey of that. So, if the market goes down, if the portfolio goes down, I'm fine. And when market did not perform well from October, the 2022 was a little challenging, am I right? And this went on till December 2022, and this investor panic. तो मतलब सर आपने तो बोला था कि आपको हायर रिस्क हायर रिटर्न चाहिए. इज अ वेरी सीजन इन्वेस्टर, आई मस्ट टेल यू दैट. नहीं, मैंने बोला था लेकिन मुझे लगता नहीं मार्केट चलेगा और नहीं चलेगा. And he took a call, and that I said, and of course he incurred a loss. And when I fast forward that today, in December 2020, had he remained invested, he would have made a lot of money. So I don't know, sir, that these thematic funds, if we launch, what kind of maturity level that investors would have, because everyone say yes, मुझे risk लेना अच्छा लगता है, it doesn't bother to me, but when it happens, I think investors behave a little differently. So that's where more of a psychology, how investors are able to control their emotions and then don't do anything which hurt their wealth creation journey. I think that's what we need to really think. So when we launch a product, we also need to understand the maturity level of our retail investors, how mature they are, how they are going to behave in the changing market cycles. And if they are not able to behave in a proper manner, I don't want them to lose money. There's nothing wrong with the strategy. The only thing that they take a call at the wrong time, wrong call, which result into their wealth destruction rather than wealth creation. So I think we need to be very, very cognizant of that. So right now, to cut it short, we don't have anything, but we'll be very, very cautious if at all we have to come with the thematic funds, because that call for extra risk, which comes at a higher return, but it also causes a lot of risk. Second thing, one more thing, sorry. It's also a part of the assets allocation strategy, thematic funds. And what I've realized, sometimes investors over-allocate to that thematic funds excessively. And that also hurts very badly. So you should have a thematic schemes in your portfolio, but that allocation should be you should be very cognizant of that. Okay, how much I should allocate? Should I allocate 10%? Should I allocate 15%? Should I allocate 20%? But I've seen investors having 80-90% thematic funds, which is also dangerous. फिर तो आप बहुत बड़ा risk ले रहे हो अपने portfolio के साथ. So that's also one need to understand that assets allocation. What I've realized, many times the investors are not very, like, I like the question that one gentleman asked me, that 30% to the PMS, 5 to 7. That kind of clarity is there, then I'm very happy. But sometimes people don't have that kind of a clarity, or they are not been well educated also. I don't blame them. And that's where the challenge comes in, sir. And today we deal with such a heterogeneous list of customers. It's very difficult to then basically come out with a scheme which basically could become a little risky for our heterogeneous set of customers. So we'll be very, very mindful of that, doing that. Because ultimately our objective is we should launch a product which most of the investors can digest, understand, and can create wealth from that. Sandeep Sharma is saying, hello sir, is the before Diwali Mojo portfolio given is still valid with the same proportion? Please reply. Sharma sir, I think some script would have gone up in that Mojo 1 Diwali portfolio. I think Mohit would be in front of you, and Mohit has presented that Mojo 1 Diwali portfolio. My request would be, please ask him, and I think he's the best person to answer that. To the best of my understanding, I think there are no exit as we speak. But I'm not well updated, to be very honest, because I don't check that portfolio. It's managed by Mohit. He is the best person to answer that. So my request would be, please ask him that question. And Duragan Nawaz, sorry, I'll be pronouncing it a little wrong, so please pardon me. Will Nasdaq and NSE indices increase? There's a very famous saying. You will always be right when you answer this kind of a question, provided you don't give a time frame. बोला मार्केट ऊपर जाएगा, मैं बोला हाँ जाएगा, और फिर वो नीचे गया तो बोला मैं तो अभी का थोड़ी बोला था, मैं तो 5 साल के लिए बोला था. So sir, you have not defined the time frame when it will increase on. My sense is that Nasdaq and Dow or S&P 500, I think they will underperform the Indian market in a period of 3 to 2 years in a dollar terms. So my sense is that will it increase? Yes, it may increase, but it will still underperform the Indian main indices. Kiran is asking how to take a decision the stock is ahead of the fundamental. Sir, that's where you need an expert, to be honest with you. Why? Because, you need to understand that. See, today, I must tell you that many investors don't realize that the world has become very, very dynamic. Something happens in one part of the world that could have an impact on your portfolio. Whether that impact, what is the impact that will be? Less, high? No one has a very good handle. In fact, I would tell you some of the experts don't have a handle on that. कि उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा, कितना सीवियर होगा, किसको मरा नहीं. And I've always realized at any point of time there are two different views available on the market. You know, if you've seen some of the FIs also, when the broking house come out with a research report, someone would say buy, someone would say sell on the same company at the same point of time. So if the analysts who are expert in that particular sector or particular company, if they have a difference of opinion, as an investor, returns to become extremely difficult. So what we suggest is very simple. Whether script is done ahead of the fundamental or not, look at our score available on the MarketsMojo website. If you are still not, and something called do it yourself kind of a DIY. Or the other thing is that you give your money to the professional manager. Because he understands that. Of course, no one is God. Okay, no fund manager is God, am I right? He will also make mistakes. But probability of he making mistake is much lesser than you making a mistakes. And that increases your chance or probability of making more money. But if you ask me very simple way to figure it out, if some stocks goes up too high without any meaningful positive news, that will give me an indication because I think the script is running ahead of the fundamental. And that's the simplest way you can figure out whether it's happened or not. कोई news नहीं है. And now the problem is that आपको news not because of Google search, but you must understand if there's something changing in the globally in terms of the policy or which could help the sector or the company, that you should be aware about. So if you remember, in the beginning of 2023, we stated that pharma should do well. The reason we said pharma should do well because we realized that in US, the complete generic pricing which was under pressure started abating. It started stabilizing. And that should help Indian pharmaceutical company. And that's what we did. So sometimes you need to understand, at that time we said the scripts are not running ahead of the fundamental. There is still scope for them to make money. So I think you need to understand that globally is there something happening or not. And if that is happening, then yes, please, if positive, please continue to remain invested. But that's not happening and the company is still going up without any fundamental reason, then you have to be very, very skeptical. Then you don't have to basically buy that company. Then you need to either book profit or book loss, as the case may be. So that's the thing. But anyway, it's almost 8 now. It's 8 actually. I don't want to hold you back. In fact, I met someone, and I had a very interesting, I don't know whether this gentleman is attending this webinar. And he's my cousin actually. I was not aware that he's attending my webinar. And he said, Sunil, तू दो वीक में 2 बार मेरी बीवी से गाली सुनता है. तो बोला मैंने गलती क्या कर ली? तो बोलता सुन, जब तेरा वेबिनार चालू होता है, आई एम लिसनिंग टू योर वेबिनार, फिर मैं अपनी वाइफ को बोलता हूँ मेरे लिए ये लेके आ, वो लेके आ, और वो बहुत चिढ़ती है. तो बोलते तो वो गाली देती है उसके हिसाब से. So then I realized if I extend my webinar for a longer period of time, I'll be listening more gali from your family members because you are not giving them the time and you are listening to this webinar. So I don't want to be the villain in that sense. So with this, let me conclude my webinar here. Have a great time, great week. I'm traveling, so I'm not in front of you this week. But again, I'll be in front of you next week. Till such time, have a great time, enjoy, and of course I know some of you will be on a Diwali, on a Christmas holiday also. So enjoy your Christmas holiday also in case if you are planning to go on leave. I know many of our investors are going on Christmas holiday, so enjoy that. Anyway, if you are not able to attend, again I will be meeting you in 2024. But again, next week I'll be there in front of you. With this, good night, take care.